Good morning, early game crew. Break off the air drums, the air piano. We're jamming out this morning. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. We have a fun show for you today.
Very strange memory about that song. I believe that song's music video, kids, I believe it premiered after or during a Super Bowl one year. I could be very wrong, but I have a very distinct memory. We're going to get our crackpot research team on that one.
They're rolling deep here this morning. We're going to get those
research.
Hey, we have something for you.
Get on that. I'm pretty sure that song, the music video, debuted during or after a Super Bowl one year. Maybe that memory is burned in my brain. It could be totally false, though.
It's one of those maybe like Mandela affected things.
Maybe. Very, very much so. So we'll check on that and we'll see. But yes, I very much.
Uh-oh. The research staff has got it. And by that we mean Jen Jensen.
It had to do with Crystal Pepsi.
Clear Pepsi. And it was a big time commercial.
They were introducing Crystal Pepsi.
Wow.
Super Bowl 1993.
His memory doesn't fail him. He's still as sharp as a tack.
Who's the Secretary of State for our country?
Crystal Pepsi.
That's me. If it's insignificant information, I got it for you.
I'm just telling you, man. No. Listen, there's a high probability if it happened from 92 to 95, sports related, your boy's on it.
Preston's got it.
Locked in. Crystal Pepsi. Wow. I'm here. Yep.
Was that any good?
Nah. Well, have you ever seen it?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, exactly. I think that might be your answer.
I mean, it could maybe be a novelty. Maybe someone tried it and was like, oh, this is really good. And then one day they go to their favorite convenience store to pick it up before going to work or whatever, and it's not there. And they reach a really sad realization that they were the only one that liked it.
Yeah, I think that both they and the Coke products kind of went through a thing where
trying stuff
like Pepsi free, Coke, new Coke, and everybody had to change up things. It's like, just don't.
Yeah.
They had lime Coke in it when I was little.
Okay.
And I kind of liked it. How much different it was than the normal one, I don't know, but it was the novelty.
Sorry for that, but continue.
Oh, man. That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. So if you remember Crystal Pepsi,
you're a winner.
You're a winner.
Early nomination for winner. Anybody who's tasted or remembers Crystal Pepsi.
Then you're definitely older than I am. That is for sure.
This is true.
Way before my time. But today, and speaking of time, specifically tonight, South Carolina takes on Arkansas. Now, you might have to drink some of that Crystal Pepsi if there's a high caffeine volume in there because it's
don't do
late ones.
Don't do this to me.
I'm going to do it to you. It's 9 o'clock tonight.
What are we doing?
In Fayetteville. Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Even still, if we're going Central Time, it's still 8.
Still pretty late over there, yeah.
You really don't still have to do that. 7:30 works.
7:30 would have been fine. 7:30 would have been cool.
You know, you can get food at the venue, so you don't have to worry about fixing dinner before you go. I mean, let's shoot for 6 or 6:30.
I'm with. Hey, listen. You talking to Mr. Matinee right here.
Things Preston Thorne likes. Great defense. 90s hip hop. A matinee of any kind. Do not ask him to go to a movie after 6 p.m. Do not schedule a sporting event after 8.
In fact, he's up for the senior specials at the restaurants.
Yes.
No need to guess how old I am. You know.
Unfortunately, that's the reality that we're working with tonight. And, well, hopefully this basketball team is very well caffeinated because when you look at what Arkansas does, they definitely play fast. They play aggressive. It's a John Calipari coach team, so you don't have to really look at the roster to know that they have guys that can jump out the gym, that can get to the basket, and that are very athletic and will get after it on defense. Now, defensively, do they get after it at times? Yes. Are they good defensively? No.
Can we get super basketball nerdy early in the morning?
I live for this.
I know you're here for it. My understanding of Cal was that obviously Cal never been known as the tactician. That's never been his thing as the tactician, right? His thing was always, I'm going to get the best players. I coach the locker room. I create locker room cultures in a different way, underappreciated way, which I appreciate because
different power, yeah.
He has a different skill set of able to get these superstars to work under his system. And I think that's really awesome. But general consensus seems to have been that the game was sort of passing Cal by as a tactician. Has he done anything at Arkansas, at his new stop, to change his tactical ways, or is he just like, no, I'm still going to be me?
Yeah, he's still him.
Okay.
Yeah, he hasn't changed too much. In terms of adapting to getting players in the transfer portal and being more open to the things you have to do in terms of roster building.
He's still kicking and screaming the whole way.
Yeah, I'm sure he probably doesn't love it, but he does it, and he does it pretty well. He's really good at building a roster. But when it comes to just schematics, watching like their offensive sets, nothing's too advanced, nothing's too modern. It's a lot of it's simple stuff, which doesn't put a ton on his players' plates, but he can get just completely coach circles around,
okay.
You know. Kind of like that 2015 Final Four where they lost to Wisconsin and Bo Ryan with one Lamont Paris as an assistant completely out-schemed them, and John Calipari just forgot he had Devin Booker on his team.
So, yeah, that's a tough.
That was another one too.
Can't do that.
Just completely forgot. Yeah, he's on the roster.
So, if we were looking at a matchup, a whiteboard matchup, a battle of the brains, schemes, all of those things, could you say that South Carolina has a tactical advantage with the person they have calling the shots versus the other person? If we were to take names, resumes away.
I think so. Yeah, in terms of basketball mind and being a tactician, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Team building, mismatch.
Mm-hmm.
We have two different types of mismatches, but this is usually why Lamont actually has a really good record against John Calipari, right? And that first year with Lamont here in South Carolina, they went to Kentucky and won. The next year, the year that they went to the NCAA tournament, they beat Kentucky here. And the year following that, John Calipari's first year at Arkansas, beat the brakes off his Arkansas team here.
That's right.
Right? So he was 3-0 as a head coach going into the SEC tournament last year. And then Arkansas beats them in an SEC tournament game, which even that one was incredibly close.
Tight.
That was a tight game. Who knows if now Arkansas center Nick Pringle catches a pass that was beautifully delivered to him by Colin Murray Boyles under the basket and, flushes the dunk. They complete the comeback, and who knows what happens after that. But it was an incredibly tight game in the last 5 or 6 minutes of it. So, really, head-to-head, Lamont's only fallen to John Calipari once.
Okay.
That was in the SEC tournament last year. Regular season, he's 3-0 against him. And, of course, he was on that staff that, again, pulled off one of the best wins in college basketball NCAA tournament history. So I do think Lamont is a better tactician. Really, the mismatch is coming from where, the team building is, because if you look at what Arkansas's got, Darius Acuff was one of the best high school players in the country last year. Malik Thomas, another freshman, one of the best freshmen in the country last year. They've got, Trevon Brazile, who is, he'll work himself into maybe late first, early second round draft pick status. Carter Knox, DJ Wagner, those guys, pretty solid players. Now, they were very highly touted high school recruits. None of them are going to be, I don't think either of them are going to be legitimate NBA prospects.
Son of DeJuan Wagner, in case you want to feel, if you want to, take your pills and sit in your recliner or get your walker out.
Yeah, and he's played college basketball for 3 seasons.
And he's been here. Yeah.
He's been doing this. Yeah. This is his 4th year playing college basketball, if that tells you anything. But while this team is incredibly talented, and on offense, if you look at Arkansas and a lot of things they do well so far in conference play, they're a really good three-point shooting team. But again, John Calipari, not one to keep up with a lot of trends. They have one of the lower three-point attempt rates in the SEC. They are kind of in the bottom third of the country when it comes to shooting the three. And when it comes to SEC play, they're about, they're 10th in the league in two-point shooting in SEC play. They're a pedestrian two-point shooting team. But here's the kicker. When you look at their average two-point distance, they rank 268th in the country. They're towards the bottom of the SEC, meaning they settle for a lot of long twos. Again, it's a very ineffective shot, in terms of you shoot those in high volume, because I think the average college basketball player makes a mid-range jumper around 45% of the time. They settle for a lot of those. DJ Wagner takes a lot of those, right? You can coax them into taking longer two-point jump shots. And I think that's one of the reasons why Lamont's been able to beat them the last few years. Lamont Paris defenses don't like giving up things at the rim. They like to protect the three-point line. And they want to make you shoot those type of shots. John Calipari's team hunts those shots. So from just a math perspective, that's how I think some of these upsets that Lamont's had over some Calipari coach teams has happened over the last few years. Do I think South Carolina wins tonight? Still, it'd be tough for me to see it, but there is a pathway there. And I can already tell you going into this game what some of the messaging is going to be when it comes to what you need to do to them offensively, and then defensively what you want them to have to do for you, which is shoot and settle for a lot of long jumpers.
Okay, with that being said, obviously that 30% number still stands, right?
Yep.
When I say that, for reference, the 30% number means shooting 30% from three-point line. That still stands. Is that something that we can still look at and essentially say if they're above 30%, they have a chance. If they're below, they lost?
Yes.
So it doesn't guarantee a victory, but below 30% essentially guarantees a loss.
Pretty much. You could lock it in. Yeah. I think that's become a clear as night thing for this basketball team, that if they're not making 30% of their threes, and really, again, I stress it, you got to be at least around 32, 33%. Mm-hmm. If you can get to a point per shot on that, then you can justify taking almost half your shots from there, because then it adds up.
The math.
Yeah, the math will work in your favor, especially if you're a good offensive rebounding team. Then you're really stacking points, right? That's really just like the baseline strategy for a lot of teams in college basketball. We're about to have a record-setting season in terms of the average team's three-point rate in college basketball. But also we're offensive rebounding as a sport collectively better than we have in a long time. But one thing about Arkansas too is they don't give up a ton of threes. Now, they're one of the best in terms of limiting the amount of threes you take, but their opponents make almost 38% of them.
Okay. That's encouraging.
When they give them up, if you move the ball around, you will find an open shot. But you have to be able to move the ball around, and that's my biggest challenge for the South Carolina team, is can you generate enough offense with getting a paint touch, kicking it out, and making the extra pass? At times this year, they've proven they can do that really well. At times, they've had three-point looks where it's at the 5-second mark of the shot clock, and you're throwing up something contested. The contested stuff's not going to work, because Arkansas is very tall. They're very long. They are, I guess, number 44 in the entire country when it comes to just average height, right? Their starting lineup consists of 6'3", 6'4", 6'6", 6'10", 6'10". They will oftentimes play multiple 6'10" players on the floor at the same time, whether it be Nick Pringle and Trevin Brazile at the same time, or Trevin Brazile and Malik Ewan at the same time. Really, if you look at it, more than half of their offense in terms of lineups on the floor consist of having two bigs at 6'10". So what you're going to be able to do at the rim, I don't know, unless you can draw fouls. And Nick Pringle, who has played very well for Arkansas this year, we do know by watching him here, can be prone to getting into foul trouble. Can you get one of those 6'10" bigs in foul trouble, make one of them have to play more minutes than they're supposed to?
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about the transfer portal, because it's like, I don't need to scout him. I know him.
Yeah, you've seen him.
I know that guy. I know exactly what to do to him. And I wonder if you take advantage of those types of things, because it's like, oh, yeah, he can't guard X, Y, Z. He can't. I've seen him every day at practice for a year. He can't do it.
He's not switching out onto any of your guards. So that's the thing. That's what we have to look for tonight. We'll keep discussing this game as the day goes along. South Carolina needing it to get to 500 in league play. But coming up next, I like giving out awards. I think it's time to give out awards because The Athletic gave us nominees. What was the best game in college football that we saw this year? I'll let you sit and think about that, and we'll give our answers coming up next here in the early game.
If you're traveling on I-77 northbound, be aware you're going to need to make an alternate route if you have to pass through where mile marker 25 is, because all lanes are currently blocked. Again, that would be after Blythewood Road. So again, that's I-77 northbound around mile marker 25. All lanes are currently blocked. Your forecast for today, we are looking for decent temperatures, 54. We are going to see some scattered showers middle part of the day between about like 9 and 3. Not any kind of a washout, but just some scattered showers. Again, 54 for the high. Tomorrow, a lot cooler, 42 with an overnight low of 20. Right now, 41 on 107.5 The Game.
Mendoza in trouble. It's out. Touchdown. Wow. Oh, wow. Coldplay. Unbelievable. Giving the Heisman Trophy now.
Was the left foot the first one to touch?
Give him the Heisman Trophy now. Oh, my Cooper. What you just heard was Gus Johnson entering another level of consciousness. His soul leave his body and have a metaphysical experience only a select few of us get to have in a lifetime while watching Fernando Mendoza hit Omar Cooper in the back of the end zone with little time left to escape Penn State. Well, some people think that might be the game of the year, and if you want to look at some of those fun memory lane trips and one not so fun one, The Athletic polled their entire college football coaching staff, and they all gave one game each, and they had to be different games, of what their game of the year was in college football. Now, there's a lot of them. There are a lot of really good nominees, but I think I've settled mine down to 3. And now one of them that I'm not going to put on there was what they had mentioned with South Carolina and Texas A&M.
Yeah, unfortunately, we made the list. And this goes back to the theory that I need everybody to make sure you understand, that when you see somebody have a highlight, there's somebody on the other side of that highlight all the time. One of our fun things we used to do when I was playing is, they would do like the NFL draft, especially Darren McFadden had big time highlight reel against us. But it would be like
he rushed for like 300 yards in that game.
It would show like, for instance, old name incoming. It'd be like Jabbar Gaffney or somebody like that. It'd be like, oh, that was against us.
Jabbar Gaffney.
There goes us being the other side of the highlight. So, yes, South Carolina did participate in one of the games of the year. Unfortunately, we were on the not so great side of it, the low light side of it.
Yeah, the 30-3 comeback. Yeah, we won't dwell on that one too much, but I will say there is something good that came out of it, and that's the garnet glasses that are purchased and are sitting here in the studio with us today. Only adds to the lore of that game, even negative lore.
It happened. Halftime. Buy them. Purchase it now. One click. Amazon, one click.
That's how they get you. It's too easy. You're always 2 clicks away from buying something on purpose or on accident. Anywhere on the internet, you are 2 clicks away from purchasing something that you probably shouldn't purchase.
In bulk.
Oh, gosh.
It happened. It's a thing. Yeah, so aside from that game, what you got?
All right, I've narrowed it down to 3. And these are my finalists, and I kind of want to talk through this out because there's one that, from just a viewing perspective, like not having any of the stakes aside, just the most fun game I watched all season long was Texas A&M at Notre Dame.
Okay.
A 44-40, or no, not 44-41. The game was in the 40s, and it was back and forth, and it wasn't like the defenses, it was 41-40, yeah. It wasn't like the defenses were bad. Those offenses were just really, really good. And that's why I like seeing a game with a lot of explosive plays, one or two defensive plays making the difference. And what cost Notre Dame was Tyler Buckner dropping the snap. A guy who has been there forever, went and played at Alabama for a year, and then came back to play lacrosse, and they got him back on the football team.
Okay.
The holder on the special teams unit, he fumbles the snap. They don't get the extra point. So when Texas A&M scored that touchdown in the final seconds, all they had to do was drill the extra point, and they won. And there was something about the drama of that entire Texas A&M drive, the camera panning to Tyler Buckner on the sidelines with almost nobody around him, and him hopelessly watching that finish. And then on a 4th down and goal, Marcel Reed making an incredible throw to a Texas A&M tight end. They get the extra point and they win. To me, that was the most fun, just visual experience football game that I watched all year long. And it turns out the stakes in that game were pretty high because if Notre Dame wins that game, they're in the playoff. Notre Dame went 0-2 in their playoff games this year. And just outside of that one, for me, was Miami-Notre Dame because that was a playoff game in the first weekend of the season. And we got introduced to a lot of good characters. Joe Rexrode, a good pal of mine, actually, that's the game he nominated. And one of the reasons why he said is because of all of the players that we were introduced to in that game, all the highlight plays, the drama of it, and what the stakes ended up being. But then my other two, Indiana at Penn State, what we just heard, because A, the Gus Johnson call. Any Gus Johnson game, if it's a good game, it's going to be one of my all-time favorites. That was Fernando Mendoza's Heisman moment because that's one of the best throws I've ever seen with one of the best catches I've ever seen in a game on the road against a talented Penn State team. They were not very good, but they were still uber talented, making an incredible throw, an incredible drive. There was like 3 good throws on that drive that kept Indiana in that game. And clearly that preserved what is now a 15-0 season. And they have a chance to be the first ever 16-0 college football playoff team.
Yeah, and that's how those seasons happen because when the history books go back and say this team went 16-0, won the national championship, went wire to wire, the first team to do it, unless you're a sports dork, you might not go back and look at what happened in that Penn State game. But if you remember, you're like, man, they were game of inches away from it not happening at all to a team who had fired their coach. Remember that? There's an interim head coach in there. All those types of things happen. They lose that game, and maybe since, again, a butterfly flaps its wings, they lose that game. Then they decide they're not going to keep the interim head coach. Stan Drayton becomes available. Like, Deion Barnes becomes available. All these things happen. Deion Barnes, player, almost gets that sack on Fernando Mendoza, like this close to happening. So we're watching our future coaches, even though we don't know it. It's crazy, man.
It even relates here incredibly well. And one of the reasons why I love that game there, too, is in every historical season for somebody, there's always a game where you flat out get away with it, right? I remember 2009 Alabama. Tennessee had them beat on the road. They had lining up a very makeable field goal, and Terrence Cody blocks it with his armpit. They get away with it. They end up going undefeated, winning a national championship.
Terrence Cody, like that.
Terrence Cody, Mount Cody, blocking a kick. How many times in Alabama's dynasty, in their dynastic run, did they get away with it in a game they should have lost?
Right, and you just don't, as history marches on, you tend to forget those things.
Yeah.
Right, and you just think, oh, it was a dynasty. Alabama crushed everybody. They didn't. They got away with it several times, but the way history works, your mind doesn't remember those things.
You have to have a golden horseshoe moment. And this year, that was Indiana's golden horseshoe moment. And then my third finalist, Ole Miss at Georgia, not Ole Miss at Georgia, Ole Miss versus Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. It was tough to choose between that and the Miami one, but I think in terms of just wilder game, I think what Ole Miss had to do in that last drive was just spectacular to be able to set up that field goal. Mostly that pass on 3rd down, I think, was the play for me.
Yeah,
so those are my 3 finalists.
And again, it's difficult to remove context from it because you have to have the context of interim head coach, new offensive coordinator, Lane Kiffin, Kirby Smart. All of these things are happening around the game, which builds the cinema, and then the game delivers on the field.
But I will say, though, I like to judge these also, not just because of stakes. I like to have that as part of the equation, but from just a viewership perspective, we're like, oh my God, this is so much fun. I think Texas A&M Notre Dame is my favorite game this year.
I think that's not a bad choice at all. That absolutely works.
And of course, it has to fit your football kind of,
Right.
kind of love too. And
Right.
that one fits it for me perfectly, especially a quarterback duel. Oh, yes, please, please. And I think in an essence, really, outside of Indiana, Penn State, both those other games were definitely quarterback duels. But it's time to talk about some new Gamecock additions and put them in perspective, because coming up next, it's Old Man versus Analytics. I'm going to throw some numbers Preston's way, and we'll get his take next year in the early game.
Preston here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. If your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. Cracked windshield, that's no problem. They'll come out to your location and they will replace it for you, usually for free, and they'll work directly with the insurance to take away the headache. They'll come out to wherever you are, school, home, work, it does not matter. Absolute Glass will come out to you and take care of the job for you. Now, if you're at home, you're looking to increase the value of your home, Absolute Glass can take care of that too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures, we say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at absoluteglassinc.com. That's online at absoluteglassinc.com.
I-77 northbound is currently closed due to an earlier accident. It's around mile marker 25. If you were heading northbound, it's already traffic being impacted by about mile marker 23. So be careful and really just plan an alternate route at this point. Again, that's I-77 northbound around mile marker 25. You will not be getting through there for now. Fort Jackson Boulevard at I-77, also a report of a slowdown there, and an accident Highway 302 at Crystal Springs Road. 54 with some scattered showers today. Not all day, but kind of the middle part, maybe between like 9 and 3 today. You'll see some showers. Tomorrow, high of 42 with an overnight low of 20. Right now, though, a little warmer than yesterday. It's 41.
Time to break down the numbers behind South Carolina's newest players, the ones that they have acquired in the transfer portal. So I've acquired a few of them, and the last one here actually is an interesting team anecdote, but not from South Carolina. It may or may not be from another team that has built their offensive line through the portal. But I want to start with maybe the possible Vandrevis Jacobs replacement, which is Nitro Tuggle at Purdue. Nitro Tuggle's most productive games last year, as we learned from Alex Jones from the Big Spur, came against some of Purdue's best competition, Southern Cal, Notre Dame, Indiana. He had touchdowns against Southern Cal and Notre Dame. He caught 12 of those 23 targets with 2 drops. His average depth of target in those games was 12, 17, and 14, respectively. Is this encouraging to you that he did play his best games against those competitions?
Oh, yes, that is fairly encouraging because now you can say that he wasn't just raking up in mop-up duty, again, because sometimes you look at losing teams and dudes that have stats on losing teams like, yeah, but when did you get those numbers?
SCS merchants.
Yeah, not even who, but when, because the game might have been 35-3 and you were playing against the second level, the second team or whatever the case was, you still had your starters in. So there's a lot of things that could have happened. So to hear that is something that is encouraging to me.
Definitely a player I'm very interested in. And we did run a poll about transfer players from over the weekend. This is earlier this week on Twitter of what transfer player you're most excited about. And a majority of folks voted for Nitro Tuggle. And the name probably helps.
It's just because his name is Nitro.
The name's so sick.
You're not tricking me out there. Y'all not watching film. You just see Nitro and you're like, yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Sound like the Kool-Aid man looking at your phone. Oh, yeah.
You mean, you're not saying the Tuggle part is what you're excited about? It's the Nitro part?
It's the Nitro part, yeah.
Okay. For those
I guess depends who you ask.
So for those who watched All My Children 100 years ago, there was a character that he was kind of crazy but fun, and his name was Billy Clyde Tuggle.
Billy Clyde.
Oh, that's a great name.
I know. So every time I think of Nitro, I'm like, oh my gosh, flashing back. So anyway, here you go.
It'd be funny if his name was Billy Clyde Nitro Tuggle.
Oh my gosh,
like
that
Nitro's the nickname.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
Good wrestling name. All right, number 2. When rushing off the right guard, East Carolina ran for 6.2 yards per carry. In between the center and right guard, they ran for almost 5 yards per carry with 418 yards on the season. That's where Emmanuel Poku plays. So Emmanuel Poku should make you excited about next year's running game.
Yes, but not for those particular numbers.
Okay.
I think you should be excited for the running game for, was it Reg? We had a tweeter or a texter.
Reg, yes.
It was Reg earlier, maybe MVP tweeter of Call of the Week. But he was essentially drawing the comparisons between the two offices of ECU and what the Kendall Browse office is going to be, how they're fast tempo, run a lot of the same sets and designs. And so maybe not necessarily just because those numbers are isolated, but because he plays in a system that runs the same type of plays. So overall, yes, you still should be excited for it.
Another anecdote there, too. Those 2 rushing totals for ECU, that was their most effective running direction last year.
Okay. And there is something to saying, like, run behind that dude.
Yeah.
which sometimes offensive coordinators get too much in their heads. You know, we get the idea. We get the idea of, like, throw it to that dude or hand it to that dude. But sometimes we lose the concept of run behind him.
Yeah, he's going to get in space, and he's going to be a bulldozer for you.
Yeah, we try and, like, oh, we need to run it. We need to call a fancy running play. But sometimes it might just be, oh, where's our best lineman? Run behind him.
One of my favorite highlights to ever watch is, like, Larry Allen highlights, where that dude would get in space, and I'd put myself in a defender's shoes, and I would say, you know, how badly do I want to step in front of that freight train to try to get to Emmitt Smith?
Want no parts of that.
No. This is Larry Allen, Dewey. You want no part of this. You don't. Now, when it comes to Jakarius Peak, when he was at North Carolina State, they picked up only 3.9 yards per carry running outside of him, which are usually like, you know, toss plays because he was the tackle, but 5.6 yards per carry with 7 runs of 10 yards or more between him and the left guard. Is there anything that you can make of that? Or is that, you think maybe the outside number is maybe more exterior explanations as to why they might not have been as successful?
If that was me evaluating, I would not take much stock in that number. I think it's fine. It's good. If you wanted to add it, cool. If I was his agent, I'd be like, hey, look, check that out. That's cool.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But if I was evaluating it and I just saw those numbers, that wouldn't necessarily do anything for me.
Now, the one I'm most excited to bring up, I'm saving the best for last here, because we talked a lot about, like, the risk-reward element of building your offensive line through the transfer portal for the first year, right? There's been some examples. Indiana's a good example as to what happens from year 1 to year 2 with a primarily portal-built offensive line. And I also warn anybody into trying to completely carbon copy the Indiana model because they're the only one that's done it to this height. However, last year, Vanderbilt had 3 of their 5 starting offensive linemen acquired in the portal. It wasn't completely portal built. South Carolina's won't be completely portal built. However, if, assuming, let's say, Darius Gray starts and Shed Surratt starts, 3 of the 5 for yours will be starting from the transfer portal, with only 1 being a guy who played the previous season. Well, again, 3 of those 5 for Vanderbilt, and this was their starting lineup on the offensive line the entire season, right? If you look at just, like, blocking snaps on the season, those 5 guys, heads and shoulders above everybody else, right? They were clearly playing a majority of the season. So the highest graded offensive lineman for them was a transfer, and he was in, like, the mid-70s in terms of just overall blocking, passing, and run grade. However, 2 of the 3 lowest were also transfers. If we're wanting to look at Vanderbilt as maybe a case study of how this can be done, because it wasn't like they gave up a lot of pressures, they gave up some sacks, but they did have a really solid running game, but their best offensive lineman by far was a transfer player. If there's anything we can take from that.
Okay. As if using Vandy as a test case, the things that I would say correlate to us is that, 1, they had a superstar quarterback, which we will have coming back, and 2, they have a clear offensive identity.
Yes.
Which now we have, which we didn't have previous to this. So I think you can take some solace in the idea that Vandy probably recruited dudes that fit their identity, and I'm hoping / assuming that we're doing the same thing.
Yeah, and I don't think any of those guys were Power 4 transfers either.
Well, that's also that's because that offensive style doesn't necessarily need those types of linemen.
Biggins.
Right, you don't need that.
You do need athleticism because, again, a lot of triple option type stuff. You're pulling a lot of guards. You're doing a lot of stuff that requires maybe a little more mobility. So that's something to look for, too. I thought that was interesting in terms of comparing case studies of what building an offensive line through the portal may look like. But coming up next, I came across a fun national title game fact, which may be good news for South Carolina if you're into the whole trends thing. We'll discuss what that is coming up next here in the early game. So for the national championship game on Monday, it is going to be a guarantee, not which team wins, but which apparel company wins. Because this is the first time in college football history that two teams that are Adidas apparel are going to be playing for the national championship. An Adidas team has not won a national championship since the first national championship game when Tennessee beat Florida State in the Fiesta Bowl. Now, for those wondering, Nike has accounted for 24 national titles since then. This will only be the fourth time that a non-Nike team has won a national title. Obviously, Tennessee in 98, Auburn in 2010. Technically, Michigan with Air Jordan is technically different than Nike, but
Technicality.
it is a technicality. I'm counting it because it's happened so few times. I'm going to count it. And now, no matter who wins, Indiana/Miami will be only the fourth time that's not a Nike swoosh on the jersey. And this is the first year that South Carolina is going to be Nike apparel. This has actually no relevance to actual football, but I did find it interesting that it's apparently a prerequisite.
Oh, you're driving down my lane here because much as we talk about the parity of the teams and the championships, maybe we're starting to see a parity in the brands because you had 2023 Jordan, 2024 Nike, 2025 Adidas. So in the last 3 years, it's going to be 3 separate apparel deals. So maybe something is actually happening.
And what company are we not seeing?
Under Armour only has one.
And see, so I'm thinking a shift. We've got a brand shift now. I think that all good things are coming for us. It's just another part of the evolution.
It very well could be. Here's the only issue, Elijah.
Vibes are good.
Nike's losing credit in the streets.
Oh, no.
Not as cool as it once was. Mm-hmm. There was a time when Nike was super duper cool. It's still cool, but people are gaining. It's losing in the streets and it's losing in the boardroom. Let's check the stock out.
Oh no.
So I'm not saying we're jumping on a sinking ship here, but Nike is not who it used to be.
Dominant.
Not as dominant everywhere as it used to be. That's just something to keep an eye on. Adidas definitely coming up. If you check out the go-to shoe now, more so than any, is like the Samba. It's kind of like just the general shoe of choice for the casuals. New Balance.
Couldn't be me.
New Balance heavy in the game. See, I think there's a certain brand allegiance that stops at a certain age range. And I think you are still of the Nike generation.
I am.
you still of that generation. I'm just saying.
Socks too.
Something to keep an eye on. I don't know if Nike quite has the stranglehold on the younger generation that it does.
Maybe we're going to help bring it back.
Maybe. That's very possible.
That's the goal.
I will say this.
I love Jen's optimism. Let's bring it back.
I will say this.
Never have left.
Nike is leaps and bounds ahead because if you just walk the streets, walk on campus, you won't see any Under Armour on people's feet.
Nope.
I promise you that.
And I will say, when it came to basketball shoes, I hated wearing Adidas. Played on an Adidas team for AAU, and buddy, they felt like clogs.
Mm-hmm.
I hated Adidas basketball.
Where's Converse, man? Where's Converse?
I wish I played in Converse. My ankles are probably glad I didn't, but
Probably.
just to say that I did and to have a little bit of a throwback, part of me wishes that I did play in Converse at least once, right? But when it comes to Nike too, we established yesterday the Napoleon rule of dominance. Has it been 6 years since Nike has dominated the apparel landscape, would you say?
That's something good to look at.
You are more in tune with this than I am because I'm in my bubble because to me, I'll always be a Nike loyalist
I think there's a brand loyalist thing that may not exist. I'm just saying, just watch out for some of the new brands coming on. Adidas is coming along. New Balance is super hot. And I think it's where you follow the casuals and the younger folks are not necessarily as brand loyal as maybe you olds.
As me, yes. as me, because trust me, I definitely a loyalist in that regard. So when South Carolina made the switch over, I was pretty amped about that. It's like, oh, I can wear a South Carolina pullover. It's got, it's Nike branded. It's a really dumb loyalty, but I'll take it. I love it.
Oh, for sure. And as I stated when we made that change, the color you're looking for is team red, not university red. University red is more Georgia. Team red is the one that you want to match the garnet colors. Just
the
make
one
sure
that
you
actually
understand that.
is a little more garnet.
There you go. Team red. So when you're searching, team red.
Now, in terms of Nike teams that have gone to national championship games, this will be one, but it'll be 2 out of 3 in which they haven't been represented. Still like 5 years away from Napoleonic rule here being applied.
Correct.
But Indiana, Miami making history, which I found interesting too, just like the Nike run of dominance, because from 99 to 2010, they won every single one and participated in almost all of them but one.
Yeah, but also you got to think the folks in the Adidas boardroom, whoever was like, I got the Indiana contract. Anybody good with that? It was like, yeah, whatever, man.
All right, cool. Yeah, that's great for basketball. Awesome. Thanks.
Victory lap now.
That's right. Our basketball shoes are going to go through the roof. They did not think that this would be a good football investment. Well, South Carolina lost a lot in the transfer portal, but they're getting a lot from the portal. Well, how does that compare to other teams that lost a ton? Well, we'll discuss that next. It is a little bit chilly outside. I'm looking at 43 degrees right now. Not ideal golf weather for myself personally, which is why a day like today for me is perfect to go hang out with my friends over at Pro Swing and take advantage of some of those sick golf zone simulators where you can play anywhere in the world and simulate your golf skills while also learning a little bit more about your swing, how you're hitting the ball. It's a good mix of golf education and a lot of golf fun. You can rent those by the hour, and memberships are still available. Highly recommend giving them a call at 803-592-3916 for more information on how you can become a member at Pro Swing. And they can also give you some lesson packages that are available, and they're available for beginners to scratch golfers, kids to adults, or scrubs like myself. They won't turn down anyone. Again, that number 803-592-3916. And you can always book online at proswingcolumbia.com.
Highway 302 at Crystal Springs Road, still working that earlier slowdown. Also, Fort Jackson Boulevard at I-77. Major incident, I-77 northbound, around Wilson Boulevard, basically around exit mile marker 25. That's where I-77 northbound is closed. So do find an alternate route. It's already backed up a couple of miles to about, mile marker 22 and a half or so. So again, find an alternate route, I-77 northbound, mile marker exit 25 around Wilson Boulevard. And your forecast, yep, we're going to see some showers today, just the middle part of the day it's looking like. And then overall, the high will be 54, overnight low of 34. Tomorrow, a lot colder, 42 will be the high, and the overnight low of 20. So getting a little brisk. By Friday, sunshine, 49. So right now, we are sitting at 41 on 107.5 The Game.
Hour number 2 of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. And her Chicago Bears broke an Amazon record.
Kind of exciting. A little Prime Video action. About 31.5 million viewers on that game the other night when we shredded the Packers.
You think Jeffy B got his money's worth on that one?
I've been worried about him because I know times are tight.
Yeah. You're like, oh, man, I don't want him to have to lose a yacht this year if the
That would
NFL
be
contract's
terrible.
not pulling through. But no, I don't think he has to worry about that.
No, 31.6 million viewers. That's incredible.
It's a lot of folks watching.
I know.
That's what we're all accounting for that.
Yeah, and it, kind of hurts my heart in a way, but I'll tell you what, we were talking about it before. Amazon Prime, they have it down as far as sports is concerned. What their coverage of the game I thought was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Their NASCAR coverage last season, and they're going to have another stretch of that again this year. Good stuff. Yeah.
That's exciting.
It is. It really is.
That's really, they do a really good job. Their basketball is really good too. Like
I've not
their
watched.
NBA
Okay.
coverage is phenomenal compared to ESPN's coverage of the sport the last 15, 20 years, which has been, but theirs is really good. I don't have to hear about what this game means in the middle of February for LeBron's legacy. You don't. That conversation doesn't happen. It's actual like X's and O's basketball stuff, and it is stuff that I've been craving for. It's like I have been starved. Like I have been out in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights with no food. And Amazon, when their basketball coverage is like,
They deliver.
Hey,
oh my gosh.
here's a steak, buddy. That's what it feels like. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's great.
They do a good job.
So my only thing with the football one is maybe it's time for Al Michaels to go to bed.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you a little bit.
I will say he did bring it for the playoff game.
Hey, man, listen. Come on, man. Regular season? How many regular seasons my man been a part of?
For him, too many, apparently.
Just get me to the playoffs.
And he was in playoff form, I will say.
There you go.
Al Michaels saved his best for the playoffs, and I can appreciate ramping it up when the games are the most important. But when it comes to the transfer portal, right, we talk about a lot of what South Carolina has been able to do and what they've had to do, right? They have brought in 17 transfers. They lost 23, right? And when you're just consuming content of your team, 23 outgoing transfers feels like a ton. And in terms of what it's felt like there's been more this year than there were last year and the year before. And 17 coming in feels like a lot, but I wanted to put that in perspective. And thankfully, the folks over at The Athletic, Antonio Morales and Sam Kahn Jr., did compile a list of the teams that lost the most and how they've replenished it. So it should at least give us an idea, right, of how much South Carolina actually lost compared to what other teams are losing in the sport and how much they're bringing in and how much they are really rebuilding the roster through the portal, whereas other teams are probably doing it on a full scale, right? Well, Oklahoma State's number one. This is the extreme example, right? Mike Gundy fired, and they're going to have their first coaching hire with Eric Morris for the first time since Les Miles left for the LSU job. That's how long Mike Gundy was at Oklahoma State. But they lost 63 scholarship players in the portal. 63. almost 3 times as much as South Carolina lost. And they've already added 42 players. So could you imagine being an Oklahoma State fan and every day you're just refreshing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like, okay, who's next? Oh, another one, yeah. So I can imagine 42 times. That's a lot.
If I don't have a tab open on my computer, that thankfully 24/7 Sports does a really good job of having one page to show you who you lost, who you're bringing in. Organization would be tough for me. But for Oklahoma State, there is no offseason for them. They're beat writers, they're fans.
Yeah, and also what you see is the direct line, right? Obviously, there's a reason for it. Gundy leaves, players either decide they want to do something else with their future, either they jump into the portal, or new coach comes in and just says, hey, you might want to think about your future, and it might not be here.
You may have better options.
Yes, other options.
Yeah, yeah. Any options that's just not Oklahoma State.
It's not you, it's me.
Now, I did find funny, they do put in the top players added for each team, too. All 3 of the top players added for them are North Texas players.
Of course.
So it's Eric Morse is bringing in luggage, and it's luggage that he almost took to a college football playoff.
Exactly. So, I mean, maybe Deion was a trendsetter in that statement.
He might have been.
He might have been a trendsetter, right?
But Oklahoma State in 2026, essentially North Texas 2.0, with some maybe additional added players. Iowa State also an extreme one. If I had to guess before all of this as to which team was just the most brutally beaten by the transfer portal, I would have assumed it's Iowa State. I knew Oklahoma State lost a lot. I didn't know they lost 63 players to the transfer portal. But I would have probably guessed Iowa State. They lost 49, which is a lot in total. Not as much as 63. But 49 players, and I want to say 19 of them followed Matt Campbell to Penn State.
My question for how this works is when that train's leaving and you're trying to get on that train and they're like, sorry. you tell your buddies, you're like, yeah, man, we're going to Penn State, right? And it's like,
you got a mouse in your pocket? What do you mean?
French?
Yeah, well, yeah. When did you start speaking French?
Because a lot of players went, but a lot didn't. And I would just wonder how that situation works. Does coach have the conversation with the players that he wants to have? Is it like, hey, you're welcome to come if you want? You know, I just wonder how that works out.
Always very curious. Or it's like, hey, coach, excited to go to Penn State with you. And he's like, I don't think we have a spot for you here. Coach, you don't have, you got Penn State lost, 30 some odd players. I don't know if we have a spot for you. Good luck though.
Got to check. Let me check some things.
Yeah,
get back with you.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Let me check. Let me check some things out.
I have a feeling if they're checking back with you, you're probably not going to hear back.
Yeah.
Or
crickets.
Don't bank on it. But for Iowa State, their top players added from the portal. Different schools, though. They had 2 as top players. They got Jalen Rayner from Arkansas State, quarterback, and then Isaac Terrell from Washington State as an edge rusher. So they, with their new coach, not bringing in as many folks as what Matt Campbell's doing, because Penn State's number 3 on this list. They lost 49 players, added 31. Again, 19 of those 31 are coming from Iowa State. Easiest portal job ever for Matt Campbell?
Yeah, just bring them with you.
Just bring them with you. And then West Virginia lost 38. They're bringing in 25. Arkansas, the most in the SEC, is losing 37, and they've added 31 players. Michigan State's losing 36, adding 24. Auburn losing 35, adding 23. Florida State, really, I think this is the first team or second team on here that doesn't have a new head coach.
Yep.
West Virginia lost 38, and their head coach is staying. I think that tells you a lot about what certain players think of Rich Rodriguez, which is my favorite thing here, too. I think this is also an addendum on how much players actually like some of their coaches. Florida State, the second team on that list or in that category, have lost 34, and they've only added 13. Mike Norvell is not having the best of reflections on him right now.
Well, it worked once. And they tried to replicate it, and it has not worked since. They struck lightning once. Lightning struck one time. They got it. Unfortunately, they had the injury, which who knows how that could have changed the whole fortunes of that program. But, yeah, it doesn't seem to be working. And they have made a commitment to a lame duck coach. So any player that's going there is kind of like, I mean, this probably is going to be a one-year thing.
Yeah, A, who would have thought that a Florida State-North Alabama game would have significant impact on the future of that program? And then B, who would have thought that that team that was really special that year, built through the transfer portal in terms of who they added, is now being defined by not adding a ton of players and losing a lot more? Because if you look at, the difference between what a team added and what they lost, usually the difference is 10 to 15 players, right? Because we're still early in the portal too, relatively speaking. I think we still have another week before it actually closes. But even if you're in, you still have all the time that you want to be able to actually pick a landing spot. For Florida State, though, that's a 21-player difference in terms of who you've lost and who you've brought in so far. That's a lot. So when looking at South Carolina's situation, which is 23 players outgoing, 17 incoming, in terms of just building a roster, if you just look at these factors right here, I feel pretty good about at least a level of continuity that you might not get through a lot of places in the sport. I think on average, we're probably looking at South Carolina being middle of the pack in terms of losses and relatively high in terms of gains.
And also, one or two things could be happening with South Carolina, at least for myself speaking. Either I'm becoming desensitized to players leaving in the portal, or it feels like this year we haven't had any players that were unexpected.
Yes.
And it could be all, and it also, I'm just speaking for myself. It also could just be because, hey man, y'all were 4-8 last year. It don't matter. All y'all can get out of here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That might be my feeling also, but it just feels like this year, it's like, oh, okay, I don't see. I think maybe I was, once Lenoris decided to stay and Nick made his announcement and Dylan put up his graphic, I was like, I mean, I'm cool. Everybody else.
The announcement of your big three coming back, I think, weighs a lot heavier. That's the way it is in my mind, too, right? Lenoris announcing he's coming back, Nick Harbor announcing he's coming back, Dylan Stewart announcing he's coming back, weighs a lot heavier to me than it was the players that left. Because a lot of the players that left, you had a lot of them left to be desired in terms of performance, especially when it comes to the offensive line. That's really been, the focus of any type of portal analysis with this team this year is what the offensive line underachieved with last year, and the fact that them leaving probably isn't the worst decision because it's probably mutual in a lot of ways. But if you think about it, I know it's a weird way to look at it, but I've seen it kind of phrased in certain circles of, if you think about it, if Lenoris was in the transfer portal, he would have been considered a 5-star portal prospect by almost anybody. Dylan Stewart the same way, Nick Harbor the same way. And the fact that you're getting those three guys, it's almost like getting three 5-star, portal guys just by who you retained. It feels that way, right? And with a new start for next year, you can put 2025 behind you, learn from those lessons, and have a really good nucleus of players that give you a feeling that you can be in a lot of games and be able to kind of try to recreate that magic you did in 24.
Yeah, and I think that's important to note because, again, you're coming off a 4-8 season. You might have expected a mass exodus, and it hasn't necessarily been that.
Because if you look at teams that kept their head coach and lost a plethora of players, enough to make this list, West Virginia and Florida State. Florida State, disaster of a season after a really good start. West Virginia, just a disaster of a season. How they beat Pittsburgh early in the year. If we did the game of the year earlier, the WTF happened in this game of the year. That was it for me. How did West Virginia end up winning that game? They were awful.
Well, maybe West Virginia and Florida State have that in common. Because I'm old enough to remember the first game of the year.
Well, Florida State did that to Alabama. Which ended up being some eerie foreshadowing for Alabama at the end of the season. But
True.
What they were the following 6 weeks after that was pretty good. But those programs disappointed. Florida State disappointed. West Virginia was just worse than even what I think most people expected them to be because no one expected them to be really good. I think a lot of people didn't expect them to be that bad. But they had those disappointing seasons, and they had what you would truly consider as a mass exodus in terms of just numbers of players leaving. And in the case of Florida State, not being able to bring in a ton of players. So I guess if we're comparing portal situations, South Carolina's got it good compared to what a lot of these schools that we mentioned, specifically the two that are also bringing back their coaches after losing seasons.
Somebody's going to get paid a lot of money to play for a bad team, and they're not going to be very good. Because, I mean, the way the market works, you got to fill the roster.
Because they got money to spend.
Somebody's going to be like, me? You would give me that much money?
Two-star portal prospect, you want to give me how much?
You know what? Maybe I should try the whole portal thing.
It's open for one more week, Jen. You have time. You have time.
Let me think what I could offer.
Yeah. Put the offer together. Put together a graphic that you can tweet out. But don't forget to include the respect my decision at the end.
Oh, yeah, good point. Yeah, excellent.
Because if you don't tell people to respect your decision, no one's going to respect your decision. That's how that works.
But if I go into the portal, are you guys going to take me back?
It depends how we feel. We'll see if we Jed fish it out.
I have to respect your decision.
Yeah, respect our decision. The portal process is just a plethora of decision respecting, ultimately, overall. Well, we talked about South Carolina versus Arkansas earlier in the first hour. What are the other teams in the neighborhood looking like? We'll break that down for the morning meeting next. Now, if tax issues, whether they're personal income tax issues or business tax issues, are causing you to get in the transfer portal to look for assistance, well, I've got a portal destination, and that would be my friends over at the Ecton Law Firm, because that team, John Ecton and his team at the Ecton Law Firm, has been providing local solutions that have helped thousands of families and businesses just like yours escape that IRS maze. And as part of this recruitment process, you can call 803-771-9800 to set up that free consultation with John and his team at the Ecton Law Firm to be able to talk through these issues and have them tell you how they can help you get on the right track moving forward and be able to alleviate a lot of those stresses caused by that pesky IRS maze. Again, 803-771-9800. And as always, you can visit them at the EctonLawFirm.com. That's ECTON lawfirm.com.
I-77 northbound still closed at Wilson Boulevard due to an earlier accident, so map out an alternate route if you can. Also, Trenum at Decker Boulevard, that's another area to avoid because there's a pretty significant accident there. You cannot turn left onto Decker Boulevard. So, again, if you're heading towards Two Notch. So, Trenum and Decker, one intersection to avoid, and I-77 northbound, avoid that as well due to a closure. Highway 302 at Crystal Springs Road, there's also a report of an accident. 54 for the high today, some scattered showers mid-morning into early afternoon. Currently 41.
Lamont Paris and the South Carolina men's basketball team face Arkansas tonight. John Calipari coaching that Arkansas team. It's year 2 of that, and it still doesn't feel like that's a real thing. It's still just a very odd fit for me.
Yeah, doesn't quite hit.
Doesn't compute. Not the same.
Yeah, it's because Cal's not necessarily bringing the juice either. You know what I'm saying? He's there, but he's not agitating the way he used to, and it's kind of sunset of his career. I don't know. It's not the same.
He's losing his personality fastball.
A little bit. I mean, he's still a decent quote. I still hear him. You know, but he's locked on NIL right now. Which, Cal, come on, buddy.
The ship hasn't just sailed, buddy. It's in the Atlantic right now. In the middle of the Atlantic. It's gone.
No, it's just the idea of Cal being the person who's holding the purity of the game to a standard is like, come on, man.
Marcus Camby went to UMass for the love of the game. I'm sure he did, Coach Cal. Derrick Rose went to Memphis because he really loved the culture. Yeah, I'm sure that's how that.
And I like Cal.
I haven't necessarily put Arkansas in South Carolina's neighborhood, but even though South Carolina is 1-2 in SEC play, I still think there are plenty of teams that they can beat in the SEC, which is a stark contrast from what we saw last year. So we've been keeping up with the teams in South Carolina's neighborhood, including one I think is getting ready to pack their bags and move out. We'll tell you who now in the morning meeting.
Good morning. Good morning. Repeat after me. Today will be an awesome day.
Yeah, it will.
Let's go. Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day. Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day.
Now, starting with the team that I think is this close. If you're not watching on the YouTube stream, my index finger and my thumb are maybe a centimeter apart. This team is this close to up and moving out of the neighborhood because they weren't very good in non-conference play, but they have been maybe playing as intensely as anybody in SEC play so far. That's Texas A&M. Because so far, Texas A&M, again, 3-1 in SEC play, started off with a win against LSU at home, beat Auburn on the road, controversially, but it counts as a win. Beat Oklahoma, took care of business at home, and went to Tennessee last night and lost in double overtime.
Mm-hmm.
Led for a good chunk of that game, too. And that press gave Tennessee hell. If you haven't watched Texas A&M and you love full court pressing basketball, watch them because buckyball is nothing but pressing every defensive possession of the game. They shoot a lot of threes. They play really fast. They full court press the entire time. They platoon swap. It's about as fun basketball as it gets, and it's working in SEC play so far because they had Tennessee on the ropes last night. And if they would have won that game, they would have been 4-0, and they would have been one of only 2 teams in conference play that are undefeated so far. I'm still keeping them in the neighborhood for now, but I'm seeing U-Haul trucks in front of Texas A&M's house.
Okay. All right. You brought up a good point about Texas A&M specifically, and you've been telling me about them. They have a brand of basketball that they play.
An identity.
And that's the thing that I keep trying to search for with our team is what is our identity. I think we knew what they wanted it to be. It hasn't been that, which is the 3-point with the 3-ball. But what is the identity? And that helps casual fans tune into a team at 9 o'clock because at least they know what they're going to be watching.
Yeah, especially if it's a brand of basketball that is embraced by the fan base. And that's the one thing with Lamont Paris's teams is that given his history of being a part of the Bo Ryan coaching tree, they're always going to play slow. They're always towards the bottom in tempo in college basketball every year. So they'll play lower scoring games. Defensively, they want to hold you below your season average. Now, even though they did lose to Georgia, they do take a lot of pride in holding them to 75 points, which Georgia's been averaging 90-plus on the season. But that is a byproduct of just playing really slow, right? You slow the game down. You don't give the team as many possessions to be able to score. You can do that with some regularity. Now, this year, their whole idea was we're going to score a lot from the three-point line, and we're going to play low possession games, which for teams that are normally underdogs in basketball games is kind of the great equalizer, right? You play fewer possessions. You don't turn the ball over a lot. You make a high volume of threes and shoot a high volume of threes. Then you're going to be able to pull off wins that you wouldn't normally do when you're watching these teams, in the layup lines, right? There are some teams in basketball, like if you go to a high school game and you're just watching layup lines, you can get a good sense of which team is supposed to win, right?
Yeah, you just drifted me back to a time. It was a long time ago, but there was a squad, North Charleston, Dustin Braddock, Clary Judge Jr., they was a squad. And, man, Somerville had football on lock, but when you seen them dudes throwing the ball off the backboard and reverse dunking during layups, it's like, it's not going to be fun.
I've been in layup lines where I've looked on the other side and said, oh, boy, our work is cut out for us. But in those type of games, low possessions, make a high volume of threes, shoot a good amount of threes, offensive rebound fairly well, and that can equalize a lot of athletic disadvantages, right? Texas A&M has an identity that's the opposite of that, but they play to it incredibly well. Texas, a team that I thought I was just simply not impressed with all season long in watching them. I watched a few of their non-conference games. I watched their game against Mississippi State where they lost at home to a Mississippi State team also in the neighborhood here. They end up beating Alabama on the road. Now, I'm not going to kick them out of the neighborhood because of that, to say they're too good. I still need to see more of it, but I saw something from Texas that I have not seen all year, and I guess that's what their ceiling is. So that's one to watch, but they're still 1-2 in conference play. They host Vanderbilt tonight, so we're really going to see what they got against Vanderbilt. LSU is 0-3, still firmly in the neighborhood. They lost to you, so you have a nicer house than they do. They host Kentucky tonight. Now, Kentucky, most disappointing team in college basketball? Probably. If they lose to LSU tonight, they'll continue that trend. But a win tonight, I'm not kicking LSU out of the neighborhood. Ole Miss, 1-2. They are at Georgia tonight. I'm very not impressed with Ole Miss this year either. Another underachiever. Mississippi State, 2-2. They're fun because Josh Hubbard is a fun player to watch, but they are bad. Alabama beat the brakes off of them at home last night, so they are not too intimidating. Oklahoma, 1-3. Their only win is against Ole Miss, also in the neighborhood. And Florida murdered them last night. That's how I will describe that game. That one from tip to final buzzer was an absolute tail kicking. Porter Moser's coaching for his job, and from what I understand, it is not looking very good for the former Loyola Chicago coach. And lastly, Missouri. They're 2-1, also on the verge of leaving the neighborhood because they have wins at Kentucky and against Florida. They did lose at Ole Miss, though, and tonight they're hosting Auburn. So neighborhood implications there? Maybe. Missouri, I think, has proven they can beat some good teams, but they can lose to anybody, too. That's an unpredictable variable if there is one here in the conference.
Well, I mean, the best thing I hear out of you saying that is that everybody said that the SEC is not going to be as good as it was last year.
Nope, it is not.
Because we were in an exclusive neighborhood last year. Not one of the ones you want to be in, though.
You were in one of two.
Yeah. We were in the back of the, you know what I'm saying? Like, we were in a neighborhood that people did not want us in last year. So, at least we're in a neighborhood this year. See how these games go. See if we can get some wins. But it sounds like everybody, not as many people are categorically above us as it's been.
There are a lot of teams in the SEC this year that are not who I thought they would be coming into the season. But in the world of sports, there are plenty of teams who get our Denny Green Award. We'll tell you who is who we thought they were coming up next.
Preston here for our folks at AAA Heating and Air. Listen, Mike Tomlin has been the coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers for a long time, 19 years. It's a long time ago. But even if you think about that, even 15 years ago, he was the coach. And if you would have gotten work or service done with AAA Heating in there 15 years ago, you could still get it serviced with their 15-year parts and labor guarantee. That's right, 15 years. That's long-term peace of mind for your building, your staff, and the people that you serve. So if you're a small business owner, part of a church, or you're responsible for something that needs a reliable, dependable HVAC system, call the folks at AAA Heating and Air. They specialize in helping churches, small businesses, and light commercial spaces. Call them or visit them at callAAAtoday.com.
I-77 northbound around Wilson Boulevard. There's been an accident. It looks like lanes are starting to open up, but still I would avoid that area for a little bit yet because it has been closed for a couple hours this morning. So, again, that's I-77 northbound. Maybe try to map out an alternate route if you have to go past Wilson Boulevard. Also have a report of an accident, Highway 302 at Crystal Springs Road, Fort Jackson Boulevard at I-77, and Decker Boulevard, Trenham at Decker. If you're heading towards Two Notch Road, there's an accident there. You can't even turn onto Decker Boulevard from there. So slow down as in that vicinity as well. 54 for the high today. Some scattered showers middle part of the day. Tomorrow, 42 for the high, overnight low of 20. Right now, it's 41.
The Bears are what we thought they were. What we thought they were. We played them in preseason. Who the hell takes a third game in the preseason like it's bull? We played them in the third game. Everybody played three quarters. The Bears are who we thought they were. And that's why we took the damn field. Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass. But they are who we thought they were.
The Bears definitely are who we thought they were this weekend. And that's cardiac Caleb Williams. Jen, I think before we left air for that week, the Friday show, before we went off air, Jen goes, I want them to play better in the first half. I just want them to play better in the first half. Now, they're great in the second half. Yep. And the first thing I thought of when it was 21-3 at halftime, I'm like, Jen called it again. Jen called it again.
They were who I thought they were in the first half.
So the Denny Green Award layup is exactly who he was talking about in that clip, the Chicago Bears.
100%. They can't do this to us. We have 2 more games to get to the Super Bowl. There are defibrillators out there that currently have the Bears logo on them.
This defibrillator brought to you by the Chicago Bears. We might have to have one in Jen's house, just on standby.
You don't think there is one already?
That's a good point. Clear. Oh, well, I always love a good user submitted. They are who we thought they were. 803-404-6100. That's our Firehouse Subs text line. And my man Travis just sends in a screenshot of TJ Finley. And he says, can he fall into he is who we thought he was? A journeyman. Well, TJ Finley is not just a U-Haul All-American. He is a first ballot U-Haul Hall of Famer, right? This guy should never have to pay for a moving truck ever again because he committed to Incarnate Word yesterday, which is school number 7 in his collegiate career.
How? I mean, there's only so many red shirts. There's only so many COVIDs. There's how?
I don't know.
Perfect storm of everything. Need I remind everybody, PJ Finley, starting quarterback for LSU against Will Muschamp and the South Carolina Gamecocks.
I mean, that speaks volumes right there.
Hey, it's normal for people to be in college for 7 years. Yeah, they're called doctors.
Tommy boy, thank you.
Well, usually those doctors, too, they do go to some different schools because you have,
Residencies, matches, and all that stuff.
all
I hear
that
you.
type of stuff.
I hear you.
I don't know if we're going to be getting a Dr. TJ Finley anytime soon. Maybe, but
He hasn't had the doctorate of quarterbacking for sure, which is kind of my thing. This is really interesting. And I wonder if he has like the, oh man, I'm blanking. What's my guy from Tennessee? Joe Milton. Does he have like the Joe Milton thing where he just throws the ball 1,000,000 miles an hour and people are like, "Ooh,
big man throw ball far."
Gotta have a spot for him.
Like
is
a caveman discovering fire.
Is that what's going on? Because it's like, man, after this had worked 6 times before. I don't know if it's gonna work the 7th time.
It's like that scene in Arrested Development where Tobias is talking to his wife, and he's like, they're talking about marriage counseling, and he's like, a lot of people have tried this, and it's failed for a lot of people, but maybe it'll work for us.
More power to him, man. Hey, brother, get yours, I guess.
A lot of people gradually go up the ladder. He's kind of gone down the ladder. LSU to Auburn to Texas State to Tulane to Western Kentucky to Georgia State and now to Incarnate Word. This guy's gotten so much free merch that I think we might almost have to have a grand larceny investigation as to if he's not just stealing merch by going to these places and sometimes not playing hardly much there and then going somewhere else.
And you would think that a journey like that is to find better places so that you can maybe eventually get to the NFL. That is not what I don't.
No, I don't think that's his game plan. I think his game plan is like
play as long as I can.
I think
I don't want to work.
I'm maximizing my earning potential now. I think that's his plan.
And a lot of guys, because Brad does make a good point on the text line, because he's got the red shirt year, medical, and a COVID year. So he's got all of those. And usually you see a lot of guys that accumulate those type of, non-applicable years to their clock. But usually they do that at maybe 2 or 3 places, right? This guy's got 7. 7 different places. There is not a passport in college football more heavily stamped than that of TJ Finley. So, yeah, he is who he thought he was. When it goes back to football on the field, though, I think the Philadelphia Eagles, Nick Sirianni, is who I thought he was. And that is a coach. Oh, I took Preston's. I'm looking at his laptop right now because my theory with Nick Sirianni, he's a really good coach when things are going well. The minute adversity hits, it's over. Because they went to the Super Bowl a few years ago, lost the Chiefs in a heartbreaker. That year, they were really good all season long, didn't have a ton of turbulence. The next season, there's a little bit of turbulence, some turmoil, some struggles in the back half of the year because they started off red hot. Adversity hit, and they fell apart. Were able to get into the playoffs as a wild card team, goes to a very underwhelming Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, and gets the brakes beaten off of them. Mm-hmm. Next year, they win the Super Bowl, right? Not a lot of turbulence. You add Saquon Barkley. Things are going really well. You're in the honeymoon phase. And then the next year, Saquon Barkley doesn't run the ball the same way because the curse of 370 gets everybody not named Derrick Henry. A.J. Brown is not a happy camper, so you got to deal with A.J. Brown not being a happy camper. Maybe he's not a happy camper because of you. I don't know. I don't know what's going on in that locker room. But clearly there was some turbulence this year. You even started off the year before you even took a snap with your best defensive player getting kicked out of a game because he spit in the face of Dak Prescott.
Forgot about that. Yep.
That happened. So turbulence hit, adversity hit, and guess what they did? They folded pretty quickly. The Eagles, and specifically Nick Sirianni, is exactly who I thought he was.
Yeah, man, and if you were to do the blind resume exercise, you're like, man, this dude been to 2 Super Bowls in 4 years. You look at the amount of games he's won, you'd be like, no-brainer, he's a winner. And I don't know, man. And it kind of goes back to, do you remember that first press conference? The disaster that was? Everybody was like, What's up with this guy?
Usually people say, does the coach, or they ask, does the coach win the press conference? Very rarely does anybody say he lost the press conference. And Nick Sirianni got the score run up on him in that press conference.
It was I would say his press conference and Deshaun Foster's media day appearance was equal in like what's happening. Like they just the moment got to him or something. And I was like, oh, what's up with that? So I did have Nick Sirianni, but to stay with the Eagles, Jalen Hurts.
Hadn't thrown for over 200 yards in a game in like a month and a half.
Is he better than Tua? He wasn't in college. Maybe he's still not in the NFL.
Jalen Hurts did buy a lot of I guess stock with me, or I guess I bought more stock in him with the Super Bowl win and how he played in that Super Bowl, in that run. But again, it's a reflection of the coach. Every other year is when Jalen Hurts is at his best.
Jalen Hurts is everything you want in the locker room. He's awesome, leader, CEO, perfect. But can he make that throw on third down, man? I don't think he can.
I don't think he can either. I don't know if I trust him more than I trust other quarterbacks in the NFL. The NFL playoffs provided a lot of fodder for this next segment because it's time to air some grievances. We're going to do so by telling folks to get on the line coming up next.
hey, let's just go and get on the line right now, man.
My patience is running thin. You're all running out of time. You was late to my practice, sir? Everybody on the line.
Come on.
The late to practice, that is a cardinal sin that you do not want to commit. That's worthy of getting on the line. I've got a few folks from this past week that I'm ready to put on the line. And I want to start with somebody who might literally be getting on the line whenever they go to practice, that first practice in the spring. That's Washington quarterback Damon Williams. Yes, Jed Fish said you're coming back. They're welcoming him with open arms. But, buddy, 4 days after you signed a pretty lucrative rev share deal, you decide to enter the portal, and the tweet goes out while your teammates are at a memorial service for somebody who passed on campus.
Unfortunate timing.
I don't know if it could have been worse timing. I don't think he did it intentionally, but sometimes you can do things unintentionally that make you look really bad. It was a really drawn-out, dramatic sequence that ultimately saw Damon Williams getting back to campus, and he says he's going back to Washington. But, buddy, I wouldn't be surprised at all that if he walks in on day one, yeah, they've forgiven him. Yeah, the past is the past. However, there will be some atoning to do because Jed Fish might look at Damon Williams and say,
Get on the line. And he's out of an agent now. His agent said, "Yeah, I can't do that. I can't represent you unless he's coming back now." Do I represent him now? I don't know. It's crazy. That being said, I'm going to go back to our theme of the Philadelphia Eagles. And not only is Nick Sirianni who I thought he was, not only is that, but I'm going to do something like my old coach used to do. We had players get into a fight, and they had to, once they got into a fight, they had to run around the field holding hands with each other. And maybe I think we're going to do that to Nick Sirianni and A.J. Brown. We're going to put them in the big T-shirt, the Big Brothers T-shirt, same neckline, and they're going to have to run around the field holding hands. So Nick Sirianni, A.J. Brown, get on the line. Y'all, the act is getting tired.
It is getting tired. And the thing with A.J. Brown, this is definitely who he is. This isn't a one-year thing.
He is who he is.
Because I can tell you, when he was playing for the Tennessee Titans, I was producing a show that was hosted by a couple of guys, and one of the hosts was Derek Mason, former Titans receiver, still probably believed in Titan circles as the most beloved wide receiver, maybe in the history of that franchise. And Derek was very, very critical of how A.J. Brown was handling the offseason, right? Cryptic tweets, doing the whole wide receiver thing, talking about how Marcus Mariota is the greatest leader I've ever had, working out all summer with Jalen Hurts. And then A.J. Brown, got in a Twitter spat with Derek Mason, and Derek did not get on Twitter a lot. And then the next day, we teased that we were going to be talking about this, and Derek was going to have his response, and A.J. Brown was watching the live stream. Because we used Periscope, so you can see who all is watching at the same time. A.J. Brown and Jeffrey Simmons were locked in.
One of the great mysteries in college football, everybody always goes back and they're like, man, can you believe that they had this guy and this guy? And it's always like, man, can you believe Ole Miss had A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf at the same time, and they weren't very good?
They went 5-7.
Now you know why. Think about what's just happened with A.J. Brown. Think about what's happening with DK Metcalf. You might have your answer as to why those teams weren't very good.
Maybe they're never going to be accused of being glue guys.
No.
I don't think so at all. One person I have to put on the line, too, going back to that Packers and Bears game, Matt LaFleur. Buddy, it's happened to you again. You're on the staff of the 28-3 Super Bowl meltdown, and the 21-3 is going to live with him and maybe haunt him just as bad because of how methodically that offense is moving in the first half. Yes, I know Brandon McManus missed more kicks in that playoff game than he's missed in his entire playoff career combined. Understand, you can't kick for him. I get that. However, late in the game, when they're driving down the field, a touchdown puts the game away. He calls a timeout, and guess what they have after the timeout? A delay of game after a timeout.
Inexcusable.
My brother in Christ, what are you doing? What are you paying attention to?
Boy, that's...
You're not a first-year head coach. Maybe if that happened to Ben Johnson because this is his first time being the head coach, then it'd still be bad. But I'm maybe not as flabbergasted. Matt LaFleur, brother, you've been doing this getting close to a decade now. That is the most inexcusable thing on the planet. That is a sign of a poorly coached and unprepared moment.
I thought it was good.
Jen loved it. If anything, Jen might be sending him a check in the mail in 3 to 5 business days. I don't know if he needs it, but out of courtesy, she might. So Matt LaFleur, for just completely losing your marbles in the worst way at a big time in the game, get on the line.
And I was like, there was kind of rumblings about Matt LaFleur's job being up, and people were kind of saying his seat was warm. And I was like, for what? They're like, this is why.
I think that alone should almost make it to where it is.
You lost to your major rival at their house. Oh, yeah.
I still haven't forgiven Marcus Satterfield for doing that.
Well, there you go.
That is a pretty inexcusable sin. Hour number 3 coming up next. We're going to break down tonight's Arkansas-South Carolina men's basketball game tilt, and we'll talk about Mike Tomlin getting shown the door next. All right, my friends, I'm going to be real with you for just a second. I may or may not still have Christmas decorations up in the house. Been a little lazy to put them down. And I'm maybe a little behind on cleaning because you know what? The holidays, it takes a toll on you. But if you have some cleaning and some breakdown you need to have done, you need to work on those carpets that have seen a lot of wear and tear in the holiday season, well, I highly suggest taking advantage of Zero Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning's New Year sale going on right now. And that sale is you can get 2 rooms of carpet cleaned for only $139. And when you just mention my name, Elijah Campbell, here at 107.5 The Game, you will get 2 rooms cleaned for free. That's right. 2 rooms cleaned for free. If you just mentioned my name. Pretty simple to do. Schedule online, ZeroResColumbia.com. And remember, Zero Res, spell it backwards or forwards. Just know it's the right way to clean.
We have a report of an accident, I-77 northbound before exit 27. Now, we do have slow traffic on I-77 northbound as they're working to get that cleaned up, and an accident there at mile marker 25 as well. So just be mindful of that. Traffic is finally moving. It had been closed earlier on I-77 northbound, but it's a slow go, getting better slowly but surely. Also, I-20 westbound at Alpine Road. Ermine at Augusta Highway, also an accident, and Charleston Highway near I-77. A little bit of rain moving into the area between about, 8 or 9 and about 3 o'clock this afternoon. Could see some scattered showers. 54 will be our high. Tomorrow it's going to be colder. 42 is going to be our daytime high, and overnight low of 20. And then sunny and 49 for your Friday. Right now, we are holding steady at 41.
Early game, third and long hours starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. My man Thomas is in the video production studio here at Studio 803, hitting the switches, making sure we look good and the white balance is on and all that fun TV stuff. But we got a lot prepared here in this final hour. We're going to be talking with my man David Cloninger from the Post and Courier at the bottom of the hour, so that's going to be here at 8:30. We're going to talk about the Grill winning again. Father Time and the Grill, I think, are undefeated right now. Even we thought the Grill wasn't going to win with Mike McDaniel because we had him on there for like 70% of the football season.
Yes.
That's a generous estimation there. He found his way back on, and now he's cooked.
Yep.
But the Pittsburgh Steelers put somebody on the Grill for the first time in almost 2 decades, and only the third time
in franchise history.
Which actually, Bill Cowher retired. I think Chuck Noll retired too. So really, this is maybe the first time.
Technically, Mike Tomlin stepped down.
He technically stepped down. I think that was a courtesy.
Technically, he stepped down.
Technically, yes. But we'll discuss that in more detail here in the next segment. But tonight at 9 o'clock, make sure you're nice and well caffeinated. South Carolina's men's basketball team takes on Arkansas. What does this team need to do to get back on track? And the one thing I wanted to kind of break down too is how dangerous is this Arkansas team really? I think this Arkansas team is one of those teams that when you watch them, you're impressed with the athleticism because it jumps, right? They've got a lot of really athletic players. They've got a lot of talent. Like Darius Acuff is kind of lost in the shuffle of all of the great freshmen playing. This is one of the best freshman classes we've had in college basketball in a long time. And I think you could say if what has defined this college basketball season from a national standpoint, it's the standout freshmen. A.J. DeBonsa at BYU, Cam Boozer at North Carolina, Cam Boozer at Duke, Caleb Wilson at North Carolina. Looking everywhere, there's so many great freshmen. Darren Peterson might be the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft, according to some, over at Kansas. He had a big night last night. He's been great when he's healthy. But you got to put Darius Acuff in that conversation. And Darius Acuff, I think, is the best player for this Arkansas team, a legit NBA talent, and along with other guys who are nothing but 5-star recruits coming out of high school, and then a couple of key impact transfer players. The Arkansas team's incredibly talented. But when you look at a lot of the numbers, Preston, defensively they're as flawed as anybody. And if you look at something like defensive rating, they are 14th in the SEC in terms of points given up per 100 possessions. The only teams worse are Ole Miss and Texas. And Texas is atrocious. It is comically bad looking at it. But Arkansas, not very good on the defensive end of the floor, especially in SEC play. They're considered an average team nationally, but in SEC play alone, teams are having some of their best shooting days against them, right? And Auburn shot the lights out against them. And when I watched that game against Auburn got a lot of easy looks to the basket. They don't communicate very well defensively, and that's kind of been a staple of some John Calipari teams is offensively or defensively, it takes them a while to gel, but defensively, they get lost, they blow coverages. And if there's anything that I think can give South Carolina fans some optimism for tonight, that they can go on the road and maybe pull this off, it's that Arkansas is not connected defensively whatsoever.
Oh, I love that phrase, connected defensively, because again, as a casual watching basketball, I can see when the team is connected because you see the rotations, you see the hand gestures, you see the talking. You'll see a lot of those things happening. And so from my vantage point, it feels like obviously the 30% number for threes is something we've sort of stapled as above 30%, good. There's a chance to win. Below, no chance. But also, is there an assist number that we can look at? Because I feel like the assist number for us may indicate that we're passing the ball, moving it around, getting them sort of in a blender, making them rotate or over-rotate or miscommunications. So I think that's something I'm going to be looking at tonight to see if we have the number of assists that would lead to fluid offensive basketball.
I think I'd put that at 16.
16.
But at 16.
Okay.
Especially if the turnover number is low. And that's kind of a staple of Lamont Paris teams. If you're talking about teams that, what your identity is, you go and look at Lamont Paris coach teams, they always run, I mentioned tempo earlier, but they always are usually pretty good in turnover rate. The only 2 years at South Carolina where Lamont Paris teams have been outside the top 100 in turnover rate were the two bad ones, right? The first year and last year, they were really low in turnover rate. His teams at Chattanooga, they were top 100 his last 3 years at Chattanooga, and they were top 30 his second to last in terms of just not turning the ball over, playing it safe. They play slow, they manage possessions, and typically don't shoot themselves. But when they do, you see a 12-20 season like you did last year. This year's team, in terms of offensive turnover rate, they're top 20 in the country. Now, on the flip side, Arkansas is pretty good at forcing turnovers. They'll give up a lot of shots, but they can. Well, actually, no, this year they're actually a little low. In SEC play, they have been forcing a little more turnovers. But if you're able to have about 16 assists in this game and you're constantly moving the ball around, you're going to get good shots. And that's the thing, is you might have to win this game in the upper 70s or 80s, right? Can you get the open looks that Auburn was able to get? Can you find, even the things that Ole Miss did really well? They beat Ole Miss on the road, but Ole Miss put up 87. And I think Ole Miss has been pretty dysfunctional for a lot of the season. Yes, Arkansas plays fast, so even they can have a solid defensive game and give up 77, 78 points. But if you can work the ball around, this is going to be a big ball movement game. Again, a lot of it's going to start from being more aggressive at the rim. Yes, they lost that 8-point lead late against Georgia. But what they did do well, still, even in that loss in the last 8 minutes, was I thought they were still aggressive in getting to the rim. They didn't finish very well. When you're 2 of 9 at the rim and your final 9 shots within 2 feet of the basket, that's going to cost you a lot of games, and it cost you against Georgia. But the fact you got to the rim 9 times in that second half, just like you did in the first half, would bode well in terms of maybe drawing more fouls, especially against teams that want to block shots like Arkansas. And it collapses a defense. When you play a defense that does maybe not talk very well, they don't rotate particularly well, then that's where the kickouts happen, and your threes will be open threes. And we'll say this again, and I feel like we're a broken record, but it's very important tonight because I think you can get high-quality threes if you start them with paint touches. Knock them down. You're going to get the opportunities tonight. Knock them down. And if you're able to do that, I think you're in a position where it can be a tight game, again, if you're able to do a lot of those things.
Now, you said earlier during the 6 o'clock that essentially Lamont's been stuffing Cal in a locker.
3-1 as a head coach against him. The only loss came in that SEC tournament last year in which South Carolina almost erased, an 18-point deficit at one point in that game, and they got it within 2. And if Nick Pringle, who is now at Arkansas, is able to cleanly catch a pass from Colin Murray Boyles and flush it home like he can do with his size, then maybe that game's a little bit different. That was a turning point in the last couple minutes of that game. But that was the only time that John Calipari has beaten Lamont Paris since Lamont Paris has been the head coach at South Carolina.
Is this such a situation of like styles make fights and Lamont's style frustrates Cal's style?
I think so. Because it did whenever, now Lamont wasn't the head coach at Wisconsin, but when Lamont was an assistant at Wisconsin, these teams played in the Final Four with that undefeated Kentucky team, which is maybe the greatest team of all time to not win a national championship. The thing that really frustrated Kentucky was, A, Frank Kaminsky being able to shoot from outside and Wisconsin being able to space the floor and getting high-quality twos because of how well they spaced the floor and drew Kentucky's rim protectors away from the basket. and how slow Wisconsin played. Kentucky wanted to run up and down the floor, throw lobs, shoot early, shot clock threes, right? That's what they did all season long. But in that game, Wisconsin dictated the terms and conditions of that basketball game, and it frustrated Kentucky in the last 30 minutes of that game and ultimately won it for them.
Right.
And I think that when you play a team that plays kind of like John Calipari's teams do, a team that does control possessions, that doesn't shoot themselves in the foot, that can dictate those terms and conditions, oftentimes gives themselves a pretty good chance to win the game.
My only issue is that the game is at 9 o'clock.
Boo. We have bedtimes, man.
What are we doing, man?
Now, I do hope South Carolina makes this a game to where I have to stay up and watch the whole thing. If it's a 20-point game at halftime, then I think it'd be safe to hit the hay.
Yes.
But here's the thing. Do I think South Carolina wins tonight? No. I don't. If you're making me pick the game, I say no. However, Ken Pom has this as a 10-point game. And I use Ken Pom as basically a sports book when it comes to determining an actual favorite and by how much. Ken Pom has Arkansas as a 10-point favorite. Do I think South Carolina can cover that? Absolutely, right? But Kentucky, wow, talk about a Freudian slip. Arkansas, immensely talented. Ultimately, I think they have a hard time keeping Darius Acuff away from the basket, Malik Thomas from making a lot of tough shots. But I think there is a clear pathway for them to be able to make this really competitive.
Even still, it's not a Freudian slip. It's the truth, man, because nobody associates Cal with Arkansas.
No.
I don't care. It just doesn't. It don't have the same. Even previous. I'd say Memphis. I'd say UMass. All of those things give me Cal identity.
Do you say the New Jersey Nets?
I think it. They weren't very good.
They weren't very good at all.
They weren't very good. He tried, but the Arkansas thing, it just doesn't feel. It don't feel right.
One of my favorite anecdotes from any sports book is Jeff Pearlman's Three-Ring Circus.
Okay.
It's about the early 2000s Lakers team.
Uh-huh.
He wrote about John Calipari really wanting to draft Kobe Bryant coming out of high school. However, the brass with the New Jersey Nets did not, they had a steadfast rule they did not want to draft a high schooler at all. And John Calipari, like in that book, like one of his biggest career regrets is not speaking up to fight a little harder for them to draft Kobe Bryant because they ended up drafting Kerry Kittles from Villanova. Kerry Kittles, Kobe Bryant. Kerry Kittles, Kobe Bryant.
I mean, hindsight is 20/20.
It's 20/20.
Or hindsight is 50/50, as Cam Newton would say.
Quote machine. Cam Newton, quote machine.
Hindsight is 50/50, according to Cam. I mean, yeah, Kerry Kittles was awesome. When you say Kerry Kittles, my whole Big East heart just lights up. That was a time. That was a moment in time for sure. Moment in time for sure. But yeah, I just don't. The whole Cal thing with Arkansas, I don't know. It just doesn't. I'm not used to it, and it doesn't feel right. So when you make that Freudian slip, I just think that's just habit.
It still freaks me out a little bit. But one of the reasons why this game is so big too, is because you have two straight road games. Because Saturday they're going to be at Auburn. Another one where Ken Pom has you losing by 10. Those are teams that are not what I would consider in your neighborhood, but also two teams that are flawed. Here's the thing last year. Going on the road and playing an Auburn team, I would feel like you had no chance, right? Because that Auburn team was about as flawless as the team we had in the regular season. That's why they played in the Final Four. There's a lot of teams in the SEC where I felt like last year you would have had no chance. I didn't feel like they had a chance at all when they went to Rupp last year to play Kentucky, or whenever they went on the road to play Florida, even though they gave Florida all hell at CLA, but lost because they couldn't handle the trap. They were going to Florida, and I was like, there's no chance you're able to come away with a road win here. They did not win a road game in the SEC last year. Yes, LSU is towards the bottom of the league, but you did win a game on the road. Arkansas, yes, is a good team. It's a top 30 Ken Pom team. It's at Arkansas, but unlike a lot of teams last year, a team like Arkansas, which is going to be in the top 5 or 6 of the league, has a fatal flaw that you can at least attack, and that's what maybe separates this year's SEC from last year's SEC. This year's SEC has a lot of really good teams, but many more of them are more flawed than they were last year.
Right.
And that's the big thing. Vanderbilt, ironically enough, is the only team where I'm like, oh, you're playing at a high level, like the highest level that you can right now. Tennessee's flawed. Alabama has some flaws too. Alabama will have some nights they just don't show up. They didn't show up defensively at all against Texas. And as good as Alabama's ceiling is, their floor in some games has been pretty low at times.
So when we come in tomorrow, we're going to look for the 30% number, obviously.
Yep.
And then you said 16 assists is the number we're going to look at again.
If the turnover number is above 10, that assist number needs to be 18 or 19.
Okay.
So it's a sliding scale.
I can do that.
Kind of like our big end scale.
I can do that.
If you turn the ball over 10 plus times, you got to at least get 17, 18 assists after that. That number will gradually go up. But coming up next, the Grill wins again. Mike Tomlin out as head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Where do they go from here? Because it's only the fourth coach that they're going to be hiring since 1969. We'll tell you the significance of that, including a dark horse candidate to maybe get Mike Tomlin's services. We'll discuss that next here on the Early Game.
Hey, it's Jen for CHW Cabinetry in Lexington. Locally owned, women-owned business did right by us when we had to remodel our kitchen. We got the photorealistic rendering of the kitchen showing the finished product before it was actually finished. And actually, it was so helpful. Some of the design elements that they had in there, we actually sort of stole because we're like, oh, that's really cool. That's a great idea. So we used them, and the kitchen turned out great. But they do more than just full-on kitchens. They can help you if you're wanting to update some other things. Maybe update your pantry, put some drawers in there. Maybe you want to update your closet in your bedroom. You're tired of the wire hanging racks. You want maybe some drawers in there. They can certainly help with that. If you're looking to create a home office workspace, they're your people. CHWCabinetry.com. Call them 803-520-6837. Tell them Jen sent you. CHW Cabinetry in Lexington. Passion from inspiration to installation. Alpine Road at Windsor Lake Boulevard, report of an accident there. Also Charleston Highway near I-77. Ermine Road at Augusta Highway. Also I-20 westbound before Alpine Road. And I-77 northbound at Killian Road. We have a report of an accident there. Traffic still moving a little bit slowly around I-77 northbound between like mile marker 25, like Wilson Boulevard, Blythewood Road, due to an earlier tie-up. The interstate has reopened. It's just moving a little more slowly as things get more normalized. Some scattered showers in the middle part of the day today. Then that'll be clearing out. 54 for the high today, 42 tomorrow with an overnight low of 20 into Friday. 43 right now.
Segment off here on the Firehouse Subs text line 803-404-6100 because we have a lifelong Steeler fan that has texted in. He says, lifelong Steelers fan, 3 coaches in my lifetime. They fired coaches before then, but not after Art Rooney turned operations over to his sons. Love Mike T, but don't like renting old quarterbacks the last 2 years. Time for an overhaul. It was certainly time for an overhaul, and it certainly felt like Mike Tomlin's tenure as a 19-year head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers has run its course, and they have reportedly, well, not mutually parted ways. The report is that Mike Tomlin stepped down. My intuition tells me that there might have been some nudging towards stepping down.
You can jump in the pool or you can get pushed in the pool. And much like the Steelers have always been known to be a very classy organization, I think this is the best possible outcome for all parties involved. They don't have to go through the PR thing of firing him. He doesn't have to be fired. He also recognized he didn't have to make this ugly and recognize, like, I'm not going unless they fire me, which some coaches oftentimes do. They stay there. They overstay their welcome. So this is the most functional. This is why the Steelers are a functional organization. And if I was a fan of the Steelers, I'd have pretty much confidence that they're going to go in the right direction.
On Twitter, a user named Lev Akabas, sorry if I butchered that name, sir, but had a pretty fun graphic that he made in terms of how many Steelers head coaches we've had since 1969 and what other things have happened since 1969. Since 1969, the Browns have had 21 head coaches.
Okay.
We have had 10 U.S. presidents. We've had 6 popes, but only 3 Steeler head coaches in that time.
Again, institutional consistency means something for the Steelers. We were talking, and we think we can't. We were just doing it off. We believe there's been 5 presidents.
Yep.
Since Tomlin's reign.
Tomlin, yes.
5 presidents, 6 terms. Right? He's had some repeats. You know, he's been around forever, man, and he's been just an institution. If you've watched NFL football for the past 2 decades, Mike Tomlin has been on the sidelines. And that's not going to happen anymore.
No. Oh, no. Oh,
that's over.
If you've had one of these, I'm holding in my hand my iPhone. If you have an iPhone, the entire time you've had the iPhone, Mike Tomlin's been the head coach because he got hired months before the release of the first iPhone.
Yeah, and it's really in the context of who he is. Obviously, he's a Super Bowl winner, and he's a winner, known for the Tomlinisms. The standard is the standard. You know,
we cut our eyelids off because we didn't blink.
Whatever. Sometimes he maybe number 1 coach speaker of the galaxy.
Oh, dude, I know you listen to the Le Batard show a lot. My favorite bit that they do is the useless coaching sound montage, and it's majority Mike Tomlin.
He's always in there because he's saying some nonsense, but it's like he has a conviction that he says with where you're like, yeah, the standard is the standard.
And I still love using the GIF of him going, "We do not care." Somebody asked some narrative-based question in a press conference. He goes, "We do not care." And that was his response. That was it.
it's always a big thing. But in the context, I think you have to have the idea that, you know, Mike Tomlin's been around for this long, and his hiring was groundbreaking. You know, they had the Rooney Rule in place previous to his hiring, which is still in place, but which encourages NFL front offices to slow down the hiring process and give an interview to eligible minority candidates. And his hiring process was based through that. The Rooney family was going through. They were going to hire Ken Wisenhunt, as I read, who eventually got hired. But
he coached against us.
They went through the process, and they bring in this young 34-year-old dude who's only been a coordinator one time, and a young 34-year-old black dude who's only been a coordinator for 1 year, and he goes into the interview and essentially blows him out the water. And the Pittsburgh Steelers hired this guy that really nobody's ever heard of.
Yeah, it was a surprise hire.
It was a surprise hire to have the fortitude to make that hire. He makes it consistently for 19 years, and he is essentially what can happen through the interview process, because it has to be stated that Mike Tomlin also went on an interview for the Miami Dolphins, which, how's that been working out for you for the past 20 years, Dolphins? And they said that Mike Tomlin was too hip-hop.
Oh, wow. Too hip-hop. Not hip-hop, I guess not too hip-hop for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Too hip-hop. So that didn't work out for the Dolphins, and you have to put him in that context of his hiring. 2 years later, he wins the Super Bowl, right? Never has a losing season. He's been a stabilizing factor for that organization, for the NFL, period. And, I mean, he's going to be great whatever he ends up doing. And that's kind of the question. What is he going to do next?
You know what I do if I'm one of their rivals? If I'm the Baltimore Ravens? I think I give him a call.
Oh, you can't do it.
I don't know if he would do it, but if I'm the Ravens, I would be intrigued. If I'm any of these teams with a head coaching vacancy, if I'm the Atlanta Falcons, I'm blowing his phone up. If I'm the Tennessee Titans, I'm blowing his phone up. If I'm the Miami Dolphins, maybe don't make the same mistake twice. Maybe be blowing his phone up. Cleveland Browns, another team in that division. We're one Zach Taylor firing away from that entire division cleaning house with coaches.
Of all the coaches left, Zach Taylor still hanging on.
The lone survivor.
You know why? You know why? Because Mike Brown don't fire folks. He like, we got to do a new contract?
Oh, no.
We got him for cheap.
No. If anything, can we get Zach to get the snow off the seats before the game next time it snows?
Why do you think Marv Lewis hung around for so long? They're like, yeah, we don't.
We're not going to fire Marv.
We're going to keep him around.
Maybe he's got to hire somebody.
We're not doing that. I've put my note in. You know, like I said, bringing this to Message Board Mayhem yesterday, I gave Mike Tomlin a winner. Maybe that was some foresight. I had no inside information. I just kind of put my finger in the air and could feel the winds blowing. I could feel the winds blowing. But listen, his daughter is a gym dog, gymnast at the University of Georgia. It's not far from Atlanta. Atlanta's have a head coaching vacancy.
Oh, buddy. Now, here's the real question, Preston Thorne. If Mike Tomlin ends up coaching the Atlanta Falcons, are you re-upping for next year?
Rise up. Rise up.
That makes our process next year pretty simple, doesn't it, leading into training?
If that happens, rise up. I don't think it's going to happen.
Because that contract is expiring. Your Falcons fandom contract is expiring.
It is. I mean, I was on an expiring contract. It was fun this year. I can say it was fun being a fan of that team with the ups and downs. And now that we have a coaching search, I am looking forward to seeing what we're going to do in this process.
Would hiring John Harbaugh change your mind to re-sign? I know Mike Tomlin's one of those guys.
That'd be a step in the right direction.
Okay.
Mike T is a guarantee. And I like Harbaugh. I think Harbaugh is very good. The only thing with Harbaugh is like, okay, what are we going to be? I know you know what? Both of these dudes are floor raisers.
Yes, significantly.
You will not be bad with these teams. I don't know if you'll ever get to great with either one of them, especially at this stage of their career. But if you hire them, you know you won't be bad.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way, which is why if there's a year to have a head coaching vacancy in the NFL, this is it. Because if these two guys are available, I'd be doing everything I can to get one of them, right? And that's why I did an entire bit on Westwood One where I don't care who wins that Week 18 game. I think both teams probably should part ways with their head coaches, and any team with a vacancy should be zeroing in on those guys and doing whatever you can to court them whenever it comes to what job they get next. Next for us, talking to my friend David Cloninger, Post and Courier, we're going to talk football transfer portal, men's and women's basketball. We're going to get the latest from Gamecock Athletics from David, the most inside of insiders, coming up next here in the early game.
The biggest weekend of football upcoming, and you did not call the folks from Integrated Media. That's your bad. But there's still time to get some great weekends in. Get your outdoor setup ready because the spring is on the way. What can you have? Samsung Terrace TVs, Sonos outdoor speakers for TV and music, Wi-Fi that works indoor and outdoors, controlling all your devices from just one remote. You can have all that set up ready to go for the spring as the spring starts to happen with the folks from Integrated Media. From home theater setup, adjusting your thermostat, monitoring your security system, Integrated Media is who you call. So call Nathan and Michael at 803-948-8327. That's 803-948-8327. Or you can reach them online at integratedmediainc.com. That's online at integratedmediainc.com.
I-77 northbound at Killian Road, an accident there. Also I-20 westbound before Alpine Road. Ermine at Augusta Highway. Charleston Highway at I-77. One other accident, Alpine Road at Windsor Lake Boulevard. Going to see some scattered showers rolling in here shortly, lasting through the middle part of the day. 54 will be our high. Tomorrow going to be a lot cooler, only a high of 42, and then the overnight low of 20. On Friday, we'll see sunny skies and 49. It's 43 right now.
Time to go to the phone lines and phone a friend. Our pal David Cloninger, friend of the show from the Post and Courier, joins us right now. David, hope you're having a solid morning, good sir. How we doing?
Oh, not bad. I mean, I woke up, so that's always a good start.
That's always a good start. And your 49ers are a game away from the NFC title game.
Oh, did you know that? I thought I saw something like that, last week. But, hey, that's cool. Hey, let's just go out there and see if we can keep playing good.
Well, DC, at the rate it's going, you're going to have to suit up for them.
Well, I can do that. At least I'll bring some heart and intensity to it. I realize some of these guys got legit injuries, but turf toe, come on now. Come on now. I mean, that's a franchise for Ronnie Lott once said, cut the finger off. It's going to keep me from playing.
All-timer. I will say that David could have spared himself some anxiety if he just listened to me in the press conference room after the game. I said, the Niners are beating the Eagles.
Well, that's true. You got any predictions this week?
Oh, so what? They're in Seattle? Oh. Mm-hmm. I'm not optimistic.
It's going to be a massacre.
Yeah. I have a feeling it's not going to go well, mostly because I think that the Seahawks are my pick to get out of the NFC. I don't know if anybody in that conference is beating Seattle, especially on the road. But when it comes to Carolina football, David, obviously a lot of change going to be happening to the roster because that's just college football in 2026. With the departures that we've seen, a lot of them on the offensive line, but then a lot of the transfers that are coming in, what's your feel on, A, how the team feels about how they've done with the roster and building it for 2026, and how do you feel about how this team has done so far in the transfer portal window?
Well, Elijah, it was obvious that the biggest need of the team this year was going to be offensive linemen. I mean, they needed it after the line performed so dreadfully last year, and it's hard to sit here and shed tears over guys that left when those guys were all there on that line that didn't play very well. But that said, there are a couple guys that went in that perhaps they or I wasn't expecting. Maybe they do end up coming back, but who knows? We saw Jalewis Solomon, pull a switcheroo yesterday on that from the secondary. But they just need to go get new guys and, basically get in a new attitude, new players. And you just got to wait and hope that the new guys that they've gotten have come in and will gel with their new line coach and with each other. So they're still, on the list of needs that they needed position-wise. I think they've handled it very well outside of maybe getting a new tight end. But otherwise, they've done pretty well. Now you just got to get them in there and see, like you did 2 years ago, okay, who is the Kyle Kennard, Demetrius Knight of this group? Because you want to get guys like that come in and automatically lead and can come in and play well during the fall.
Yeah, and that's kind of what leads me to this question, too. You're looking for those type of guys, and I don't think we could even understate how important Kyle Kennard and Demetrius Knight were. And if I'm not mistaken, Demetrius Knight was a little later in the portal process, too. What do you think is still on that checklist in terms of guys that they could potentially be bringing in to maybe fill a leadership void or just fill a void on the roster just from a football standpoint that they still need for 26?
Well, as I mentioned, I think a tight end would be good to go get. Brady Hunt is applying for another year of eligibility. You never know how that's going to go, but you do have Maurice Brown in that room, and I think he could do something. But you look back at 2 years ago, Elijah, and who was Lenora Sellers' most dependable target to catch a pass? Who was it?
Simon. The easy
that
ball.
was Josh Simon at tight end. So there, you need to get a guy like that. Maybe that was just how those two connected, or maybe it was just the case of, let's keep in mind that the offensive line wasn't very good 2 years ago either, but yet they made it work. And a lot of that was because, hey, if I get rushed, there's my safety option right there. So I think you want to go get a guy like that. That said, you got to do so much research in these couple of weeks that you have, Elijah. You have to look and see, try to vet these guys and say, what kind of leader are they? What kind of kid are they? You got to talk to their parents and their coaches and all that kind of stuff. And it's very hard to judge that when they're not here in the uniform for you. I've always said that you can't be something that you're not. You can't go to somebody who may not be comfortable raising their voice or fulfilling that leadership void and say, I need you to be a leader. You just never know how that's going to work out. So you do as much research as you can, and you hope. But the fact is that, as we've mentioned, for Kyle Kennard or Demetrius Knight, you never really know if you got those guys until you got them. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You just have to let that develop and hope that it's going to work out.
David Cloninger from the Post and Courier is on with us right now. Kind of pivoting to basketball. Men's got a big game tonight against Arkansas. You look at the season so far, no real marquee wins in the non-conference. You're 1-2 in conference play. You let the Georgia game slip on Saturday. Got to go to Arkansas and play a really athletic and talented Arkansas bunch. But when it comes to what this team has to do the rest of the SEC slate, just to be able to, I think, either A, just garner fan attention and make sure that the fan base doesn't get checked out, and B, be able to secure some job security for the coaching staff moving forward. What do you think kind of has to be done? How much pressure do you think is on this coaching staff right now?
Well, I think that they need to just channel Al Davis and just win, baby. You got to find a way. And as you and I both know, Elijah, we've sat up there cutting it up enough times. There's nothing wrong with this team that hitting a few shots won't fix. But you got to go hit those shots, and that's been the problem in all but one of their games against Power 5 competition. They're not hitting enough shots, and they're not hitting them at the right times. They had the game against Georgia. They made one bad sub, and all of a sudden they couldn't hit a shot for the final 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. Not a field goal, so that's what cost them. It's just going to be tough to do. And, in terms of security for the job, for the coaching staff, I'm sure they're feeling it too. You need to go and at least looking at it from my view saying you got to find a way to try to have at least a 500 season in the SEC. That shows progress. But the fact is that's just not going to be easy to get. So you got to go try to win and keep stacking wins, because there's not going to be an easy night in this conference. On the road against an Arkansas team that you did beat last year, but that was at home. And, any team that's going to have athleticism and height like Arkansas does trying to go against USC, they're probably going to have the advantage. USC simply doesn't have that much in the paint to try to keep guys out of there. So go out there, and maybe it'll be like LSU. They come out, they start hitting everything they throw up, and it's like, okay, now you just got to play a little defense. But you got to go out there and hit those shots first.
David, Thursday night, tomorrow night, we have a massive showdown, a rematch of South Carolina's only loss in women's basketball this year to Texas, and your boy Vic Schaefer is going to be gracing your presence once again. What needs to happen in the game tomorrow that didn't happen in Vegas earlier this year?
Stop Rory Harmon in the final seconds.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
No, it's a case of that. It is, I think, two evenly matched teams. You don't like it that Texas is coming off a loss, and especially a loss where their two best players, Rory Harmon and Madison Booker, didn't play particularly well. But it was always going to be a big game. Now, home advantage is certainly beneficial. Just look up last year's game against Texas. You look up 3 of the last 4 games against Texas last year and say, well, USC handled business because it's Dawn versus Vic Schaefer. However, there was that game in Las Vegas earlier this year. So They got to go out there and handle the first rush that Texas puts on them and start making their shots. Some of the USC's players didn't play particularly well against Georgia, but they did enough to get the win. And you do like that they're going to have a full roster this time, which they did not have in Texas. In Vegas. And you say, okay, well, you got to have them come in here and see what happens. And then hopefully you get another classic Vic press conference where he whines about everything except how he coached. It's always somebody else's fault when Vic loses. You got to remember that.
That being said, does Vic Schaefer's sport coat make it out of the first quarter, over, under?
Oh, no way, man. I mean, that thing is going to be doffed by the first media timeout. That's what Vic does, you know? And it's like, okay, you do your thing, all right? But the fact is yes, they did win the last one, and it was for a title. But I believe my numbers are right here. Dawn is still 14-4 against Vic in her career.
Good stuff,
and
David.
You got to love that this game is at home.
That's the big one. David Cloninger, Post and Courier. David, appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you soon. Our winners for the day's show coming up next.
Winners.
And as always, we give you our winners for today's show, brought to you by the Golden Spur. And you know what? I think the first one that I have to kind of tip my hat to and give a winner for today's show, Kerry Kittles. Another, if there's a random NBA player that gets a mention for any reason, they're a winner in my book. Kerry Kittles, the player the New Jersey Nets actually wanted, that John Calipari did not want because he wanted Kobe Bryant. Out of all the John Calipari stories since South Carolina's playing Arkansas tonight, that I remember the most, outside of Derrick Rose having allegedly someone take his SAT for him to get him to Memphis, outside of John Calipari almost needing a hold me back guy before Coach Chaney ripped his head off.
Oh, what a classic moment.
An all-timer. And because I remember growing up, I hated John Calipari because he coached at Memphis, coached at Kentucky. He was a basketball villain for me back when I was kind of in like the height of my college sports fandom. I used to, before like on game days, whenever Tennessee would play a Calipari coach team, I watched that.
Classic.
And I channeled my inner Coach Chaney.
Classic moment.
It was great. Coach Chaney and Kerry Kittles, winners.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Requiem for the Big East, top 5, 30 for 30 maybe.
That's great.
One of my faves. That being said, we're going with the rare. The rare. I wasn't wrong. I was just early. That being said, got to give another winner to Mike Tomlin.
Yes.
19 years, never a losing season, Super Bowl champion, steps down, doesn't wear out his welcome, allegedly. Awesome, innovator, stalwart. The standard is the standard. Coach speak master. We're going to miss Mike Tomlin because he was guaranteed to say something that you may or may not know what it means, but it sounds cool.
It always sounds cool.
It always
Quote
sounds
machine.
cool. That's the guy, man. So I don't know if we're going to see him on TV or if he's going to be on the sidelines again, but Mike Tomlin, absolute winner.
Another winner by the Golden Spur. What I got for today, players, coaches. Because when we talked earlier in this show about where South Carolina is compared to other Power 4 teams that are having to completely retool through the transfer portal, all those schools on that list, with the exception of 2, had new head coaches, which is to be expected, right? I think we should expect Penn State to lose a lot of players and then gain a lot of players. We should expect Iowa State and Oklahoma State to lose a lot of players, regain a lot of players. But one thing that popped out where there were 2 teams on that list that are keeping their head coaches and players just straight up don't want to play for them. Mike Norvell at Florida State, Rich Rodriguez at West Virginia. And I think the fact that South Carolina got their 3 biggest targets in terms of retention to come back does say something in terms of the stability of the program compared to other teams from around the country that are bringing back a head coach. But because they're bringing back a head coach, a lot of other players said, we out. Sayonara.
Randomly, another name that just came up towards the end of the show, but Ronnie Lott, winner.
Ooh, yes, Ronnie Lott.
A majority of his game would be penalized heavily today in today's NFL, but he's a winner for me because I went to a football camp when I was 10 years old. Ronnie Lott was the guest speaker. He proceeded to cuss us up and down and tell us how much we did not love the game, and I think I was 10. And
what?
he dropped every MF bomb that you could, showed us his pinky, and told us how much he had to love the game. I was 10. That happened in my life.
Oh, my God. I think the things I would do to get a hold of that tape, because that's what you just laid out is an SNL skit. That's not – that
happened in real life. I remember being like, what? He told us we didn't love the game. You got to love the game like this. And he showed us that decrepit pinky that was cut off. I was like, I'm scared.
I'm sure you woke up that morning like, oh, I can't wait to get to meet an NFL Hall of Famer, a football legend. No, you don't want to meet me, son. No, you don't love the game like I do. You want to cut your pinky off for the sake of football?
Yeah, I wish cameras and iPhones were more readily available back then, because that moment is definitely lost to history.
It is.
It doesn't exist except in my brain. Now I'm wondering if it even happened. I know it happened.
Oh,
though.
Don't gaslight yourself into saying it didn't happen.
I know it happened.
Do not victim blame here, Preston Thorne. It happened. I believe you. I believe that Ronnie Lott cussed you and a bunch of other 10-year-olds out.
It happens.
That's remarkable. Yeah, Ronnie Lott, the winner of the show. Now that's
David DC just triggered it for me. I was like, I do remember that. It happened.
I do remember Ronnie Lott cussing me and other 10-year-olds out.
Unfortunately, I don't have anybody else to call. I don't remember any other kids I was at camp with. We didn't keep up with each other. Who knows, man?
It lives in lore forever.
Somebody out there somewhere remembers that.
My final winner of today's show, my game of the year, because we talked about our games of the year in college football this year in the first hour of the show, Texas A&M Notre Dame. To me, my football-loving soul was attracted to every play of that game. High-octane passing attack. Good defenses that were just getting got by better offenses. A dramatic ending where one player messes up and we have to watch them on the sideline while he's hopelessly watching the other team march down the field. A touchdown in the final seconds on a 4th down. That was my game of the year.
Can I get a Gus Johnson before we get out of here?
Oh, Mark Cooper! Ah! Tyler Head, Jack Veltri. They'll keep it cool. They're next.